scene that the disciples had just come to Jesus, and they were asking him questions. They're kind of wanting to know, what should I do? If people do sin, what do I do about it? And he gave them some answers, including the one that Angela just mentioned. But then Peter kind of bucked up the courage to ask the question, which was probably the kind of the burning question. Well, how many times? Next slide. I've got the thing here, haven't I? How many times should I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times. Nice, perfect number. But Jesus said, I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. And what he's really saying is not, get your notebook out and make a tick every time you forgive someone. He's saying, you can't count, but it's countless numbers of times, 77 times. And then he went on to explain by using this story.
The parable of the unforgiving servant. The kingdom of heaven is like a certain king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. And when he had begun to settle accounts, one was brought to him who owed him 10,000 talents. But as he was not able to pay, his master commanded that he be sold with his wife and children and all that he had, and that payment be made. The servant therefore fell down before him, saying, Master, have patience with me, and I will pay you all. Then the master of that servant was moved with compassion, released him, and forgave him the debt. But that servant went out and found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii. And he laid hands on him and took him by the throat, saying, Pay me what you owe. So his fellow servant fell down at his feet and begged him, saying, Have patience with me, and I will pay you all. And he would not, but went and threw him into prison till he should pay the debt. So when his fellow servants saw what had been done, they were very grieved, and came and told their master and all that had been done. Then his master, after he had called him, said to him, You wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt because you begged me. Should you not also have had compassion on your fellow servant, just as I had pity on you? And his master was angry and delivered him to the torturers until he should pay all that was due to him. So my heavenly Father will also do to you, if each of you, from his heart, does not forgive his brother his trespasses.
Okay, heavy stuff. But actually, it's good stuff. The starting place for forgiveness is the fact that we ourselves are in debt. We're in debt to God because of sin. We're born in debt. And because of the consequence of that, he has the right to take our lives away. So where we are, we have nothing. We have no rights to anything. But all we can do is to go to God and rely on his love and on his mercy and beg forgiveness that we might live. And he made a choice, God's choice. It was to send Jesus, his son, and sacrifice him so that his life would pay off our debts, and that God's mercy, through his mercy and through God's grace, we can receive forgiveness. That was God's choice towards you and towards me. Now, as we go about our daily lives, it's inevitable that we get hurt by people. Other people sometimes do it intentionally. Sometimes they do it accidentally, don't even know that they've done it. Things they've said, things they've done. But also there are people out there who are out to get us. They will try and, I don't know if I can use the word, but screw you in every single corner that they can, every way they can, get money out of you or whatever. And the natural response, as Jamie was saying, we were watching a film last night actually, where you can choose to look for revenge and you seek to punish the person, or we can choose to follow God's way by loving and forgiving them. And that's our choice. And the instinct of sin is to go the other way and to get our own back. When we choose to forgive others, we live in the freedom of knowing God's forgiveness for ourselves. If we choose not to forgive, we are no longer able to receive the forgiveness that God has for us. That's the story of the parable. So the sense is that as we live in forgiveness, as we live in the glory of what God's done for us, that empowers us, enables us to forgive others. If we step out of that and out of the reality of the fact that he loves us and he cares for us and he's died for us, then we find ourselves in a situation where we're unable to live in the truth and the fullness of the forgiveness that he has for us. So a few FAQs, some of which we've looked at, and Neil will answer in more detail, I'm sure, next week. What is forgiveness? Forgiveness means giving up my resentment and my hurts and doing all I can in my power to restore the relationship. So there's actually a positive step forward in actually dealing with our unforgiveness. When do I forgive? Whenever someone has offended me, and it's not conditional on them asking, although it can be easier when they do. I don't have to wait. Well, they've not asked for forgiveness, therefore I'm not going to forgive them. If they come and ask me for forgiveness, then I'll forgive them. But the position that we're in is our position is to forgive whatever the situation and the circumstance. How often should I forgive? As many times as someone has offended me. The list is endless. There's no limit, because that's how many times God forgives me. At which point does God stop forgiving me? He doesn't. So it's the same. And who is forgiveness primarily for? It is for me. To restore a relationship with God, unforgiveness can lead to deep-seated resentment, which damages our ability to live in good relationship with God and consequently with others. In Hebrews, it talks about a root of bitterness coming up, which can, if we don't forgive, we actually move outside of the grace of God. And not only affect my relationship, it affects my relationship with other people. I actually, when I first came to Lifeline, I actually tried to leave 3 times. I was an obnoxious person. Some people still think I am. But there were 3 occasions. And on one of those occasions, I was talking through with some of the leaders, and they were saying that the issue, I just feel there's something, I was just driving along, something to do with your father. And I became very aware that I had an attitude towards my father. It was an unforgiveness attitude towards my father. And that was a whole barrier to me entering in to an understanding of the kind of relationship that God wanted me to have within the community, obviously with God himself, but then within the community. And so here was something with somebody else which was impacting the rest of my life and actually the direction that God had me to go in. And God made it very clear and helped me just to forgive my father. And that's released me. Well, I'm still here. I've been here since 1980. But God restored the relationship and enabled me to build the relationship, caused there to be a flow within the kingdom, within the community. How do I forgive? Well, Jamie said it. I make a choice to forgive. And then I ask God to enable me. Forgiveness is an action. It's not an emotion. Sometimes people sit and say, well, I don't feel like forgiving yet. I'm not ready to forgive. Actually, the point we became ready is when Jesus on the cross and said, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they do. That made me ready to forgive because of what he's done for me. So I don't need to feel any different about it. I need to make that choice, first of all, to forgive. Periods of my time, sometimes I get very angry with my bosses at work. They'd make decisions over my head and they'd be frustrating, and I had this plan and it wouldn't go that way. And Sue would say, you're angry, and it would come out in all kinds of ways. I wouldn't be angry because I couldn't express anger to them. And sometimes I just had to make the decision, look, I just need to lay this down. I just need to forgive them. And so you just lay it down. You just say, God, I just have to let this one go. And there's nothing I could do about it. And picking up the point, I didn't go knocking on his door and saying, by the way, please forgive me because I had this attitude towards you. That wasn't what God, there's nothing for me to do in that other than me choosing just to let it go, give it to God and get on with life. And that was a choice. How do I know I've forgiven someone? If I feel like the person has got away with it. If they've actually, we had a situation where we had some people come into, we had some wardrobes put in our house and they did a really bad job. They sent somebody back to fix them. They did a good job in repairing them. But we'd had to redecorate. And I thought, well, that's not right. They should be paying for our redecoration because they caused the damage in the first place. And they refused to do it. And I got into these letters and writing back to them, and they would write back to me. And it was getting really silly. I was losing sleep over it. And I thought, well, hang on. You know, they still owe me the money. But I just let it go. In the end, I just paid it because it wasn't doing anything for me, because I needed to forgive them because the forgiveness was damaging me. Okay? Lack of forgiveness was damaging me. And if you've given something they do not deserve, I just lost my flow now because Neil put his hand up. You have given them something, so yeah, okay. But it will result in a sense of release. Release for you, and if the person that's come to you to ask forgiveness, a sense of release for them. So the starting point for forgiveness is the fact that we are forgiven people. That's what empowers us to be people that forgive. And as we live in the truth and the knowledge of knowing that we're forgiven, that frees us up and enables us to forgive others.